a weird mood right now. I'm not feeling very well. And you would think that would make me want to read comforting books. But I actually just want to read something new, something that I'm not expecting. If you watched my last vlog, you'll know that I did a 5-star predictions vlog. I'll link it in the cards in case you missed it. But the problem with 5-star predictions is in order to make an accurate prediction, you have to have some expectation of that book. And because you have an expectation of the book, you expect it to be a 5-star prediction, then even if it's amazing, you already kind of expected it to be amazing. So I'm kind of just in the mood to read something that I'm not expecting whatsoever. Whether I end up liking it or not, we'll see. But I just want something that I could potentially end up really like, but something that I would have never expected. So I don't know how to do that. I recently did my spring TBR, which there's a lot of great books on it, but I feel like most of the books on it are not only are they fantasy books, but they're books that I expect I'll end up liking. And I kind of just want to read other things right now. I know I literally just made this TBR and immediately I go, nope, I don't want to read that. But that's just the mood I'm in. I also kind of want something that I could read over the course of a couple of days. And all of the books I'm reading right now are super long. And a lot of them are books that I have expectations for also. For example, I'm rereading Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson because I want to get back into Malazan. So that's one of the books that I'm currently reading this week. And I have pretty high expectations for it. This is literally a reread for me. I'm also currently reading 2 of my most anticipated releases for 2025, which are A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett and The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Both of these are arcs that I got. They don't come out till later this year, and I'm enjoying them so much, but my expectation and my anticipation of them, I think, is a little bit lowering my enjoyment of them. And lastly, I'm also reading Pyramids by Terry Pratchett, which is a Discworld book, which I have been enjoying the Discworld books a lot. And I think Pyramids is probably my favorite of the series so far that I've read. So I'm enjoying this a lot, and it's a fast paced and just it's a fun book and world. Oh, I have one more. And lastly, I still have my Read It or On Haul book, The Golden Key. I think the one that comes closest to defying my expectations of a book is probably The Golden Key, but it's ginormous, it's huge, and I just want something new that I could read right now and probably faster because this is very slow paced. Despite it being very completely different than any other book that I've ever read, it is incredibly slow paced. This might fulfill that feeling for me, but I'm not going to be able to finish it. At least not this week, probably. And I want something that I could start and finish this week that I'm not expect anything about it. I don't know, it's a weird thing. I just feel like some of my best reading experiences are when the book surprises me. This is why I do the most surprising books of the year at the end of the year every year, because some of those are the best reading experiences. They're not always one of my favorite books of all time or a new favorite, but getting those surprising experiences I think is part of what makes reading amazing. So I went through my TBR and there were 2 books on it I feel like could potentially surprise me. They're still fantasy books, but they're not books that I was planning to read. So because I wasn't planning to read them and I had picked them up because of booktube basically, I feel like they could potentially surprise me, which is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez and The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. A lot of people seem to love these books, so I feel like because I have no idea what to expect from these books and I've never read these authors before, they could potentially be books that fulfill this role, this mood that I'm in, but I don't know which one to pick up, and I don't know if this is necessarily what I want either. So I thought it'd be fun to do a try your chapter kind of thing. So I picked out these 2 books plus 5 books from my shelves that are not on my TBR. These books right here, so these are the books from my shelves that I picked out just to see if this works. I did want to pick out kind of a variety because I don't know if I'm actually in a fantasy mood, but there are a lot of fantasy books here. I picked out 3 Book of the Month books because I feel like Book of the Month is where I get a lot of these books that are just things that I wouldn't expect or wouldn't think to pick up that I end up picking up and liking. The first one is Babylonia by Costanza Casati, which is a historical, I believe, fantasy. It doesn't say if it's fantasy or historical fiction, but Babylonia makes me think it's set in Babylon, which could be quite interesting. I've never read any books set during that time period, and I've heard a lot of great things about this author, even though I've never read this author before. Then we have Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I don't know anything about this book, but it's an award-winning book. People seem to absolutely love this book, so I feel like this is potentially one that could surprise me. I don't even know if this is sci-fi or what. I think it's sci-fi. Yeah, literally no idea. Then we have Piranesi Practhett by Susanna Clarke. This is the one that I really considered picking up because I've heard it's different. Like, it's not similar to a lot of other books, which is why I thought this might work for me. And it's super short, so I feel like it would fulfill this for me a lot. But I don't know if I'm gonna end up liking this, so that's why I chose it for like this triad chapter. And lastly, we have The Scar by Marina and Sergey Dyachenko, who are the authors of Vita Nostra, which I love Vita Nostra, and I do realize I have Assassins of Reality on my TBR. I want to reread Vita Nostra before I do Assassins of Reality, and I feel like Vita Nostra wouldn't really fulfill my mood right now, just because even though it is otherworldly and out there, I already had that first reading experience from that book, so I thought maybe another book by them, because I've heard this one is quite different, and I don't know in what way. It could be a good option. And lastly, Persepolis by Marjane Satrapy. This one is nonfiction, but it's also a graphic novel, and I've heard this is amazing too. Like, a lot of people seem to love this one as well, so this could be something that surprises me as well, because I don't generally read memoirs or graphic novels that often, but I feel like it's good to pick up some things that are outside of your comfort zone at times, which is why I ended up buying this book after all. So I think I'm going to start with Persepolis. I'm going to read 5 to 10 pages of it. The reason why I'm saying 5 to 10 pages rather than like the first chapter is, one, I don't even know if this book has chapters because it's a graphic novel, but also I think some chapters can be super long. It's 7 books that I picked up. Even 10 pages of 7 different books is 70 pages, which is a lot. So I'm only going to read like 5 to 10 pages of each of them. I'm not going to do the whole first chapter. If I'm feeling it after about 5 pages, I'll continue on to the next 5 pages. And if I'm not, I'm just going to try the next one. All right, so it does have chapters. I read The Veil, which is more than 5 pages, but less than 10. So far, I like the main character. I mean, it's nonfiction. So I like the portrayal of the author as a child. I'm excited to see where this goes, but I'm going to try some of the other books because I don't know if this is necessarily the mood that I'm in, but this is interesting. If not this week, I do think I'll get to this one at some point this year. So next, I think I want to try The Scar. So I read until page 10, which has like a little break in the text here. So I thought that was probably a good stopping point. The only thing I got from it was that I like the writing a lot. Like, the description of like what is happening was just so easy to picture. So I really like that. But I kind of already knew that because I've read these authors before. And as for like the characters, I didn't really like them. They're kind of unlikable. I mean, mind you, I do like unlikable characters, but I don't think that this is going to be the one that I pick up. I think I'm going to pick up one of the other ones. Right now, between the two, I would choose Persepolis over The Scar at the moment, just because I feel like this is just not going to fulfill like the mood that I'm in right now. But I do think one of the others could potentially be both of these. Next, we're going to try Piranesi, because I feel like this is the one. Like, for some reason, this is the one that is drawing me to it the most right now. Okay, this is officially like nothing else I've ever read before. I did not read that much of it because I had a good stopping point. So I only stopped on page 9, which is 6 pages. I think this could definitely be it. I feel like this would definitely fit my mood right now. I'm gonna give the other ones a chance to see, but so far this is definitely a top contender. I think next, I think next I want to try Tomorrow, because I feel like I want to try something that's not super fantasy, because the last 2 were fantasy and the next 3 are all fantasy also, so I want to see what this one is about. So this book is a little bit more like normal than the last one. It has like a gaming theme to it, which I like, and I think the main character, Sam, is really interesting. Like, I feel like we get to see like his thought process in an interesting way, and I like that, but I feel like this is just the type of book I would just normally pick up on my everyday basis and not necessarily like the mood that I'm in. So I don't think this is the one I'm going to be choosing. I didn't even finish the first chapter. I read page 11, like the stopping point, but I did like it. Like, out of all of these, I feel like this is definitely one that even if I don't pick this one, which I don't think I am going to, I can potentially still pick this up later in the week or something. Next, I'm going to give Babylonia a try. Okay, this book starts off with a bang. It starts the line, she kills her lover on the altar of a foreign goddess, which just like, what? This is definitely going to be a very plot-driven book, which I think will be great if I'm in a mood for something very fast-paced. I don't know if that's the mood I'm in. I do want something that I can finish quickly, but I don't know if I necessarily want something fast-paced. But I am enjoying this so far, because I think it's following an orphan who, I mean, it's all on the front page here. So I am excited to see what happens in this book. It's definitely one that I feel like will be a wild ride, but I don't know if it's the mood that I'm in right now. Next, I feel like this one is a very strong contender. I've heard the writing in this is really beautiful, and it's a high fantasy book, which is of course something I like. So this is the next one I'm gonna try. So I read the first 5 pages. I think this is the type of book that I would prefer to listen to the audiobook of. So I went ahead and put the audiobook on hold in my library read because this reminds me so much of like just the introduction here. It's not really an introduction. There's not really like the first like section is like 34 pages. Like it's like before is the name of the section. I don't know if this is an introduction or a prequel or whatever, but this part of it reminds me so much of like the introduction of the Night Circus, which is one of my favorite books of all time, but I did not love it the first time I read it. But when I listened to the audiobook, I finally like understood it because of the type of writing it has. It just lends really well to audio and I ended up loving it. So I feel like for me, I need to listen to the audiobook for this book. So I'm not going to be doing this book in this challenge, but I will be getting to this. And I am excited to get to this because I feel like I could potentially end up having a new favorite here just based off of what I've read so far. But like I said, I don't know where this is going, but it is introducing the inverted theater, which like I said, it was just giving me Night Circus vibes. So I am excited for this, just not right away. And then last but not least, we have The Justice of Kings. I feel like this is more like traditionally what I normally read, but I've never read this author before, and I've heard it's a little bit different than like your typical fantasy, so we'll see. So this might be more similar to what I currently read, but I had planned to read the whole first chapter, which is 10 pages. I was like, it's a pretty short first chapter, might as well read the 10 pages because it's within the 5 to 10 page limit I gave myself, but I stopped at 5 pages because I found my mind just wandering back to the other books that I had just started. I think 7 books is probably too much to do a chapter. So I'm gonna put this one down for now. It's not gonna be this book. Part of the reason why I found myself wandering away from this book, I think is because I'm just in the mood for something different and new, and this feels very similar to a lot of books that I read, which is not a bad thing. Like there's a reason I read those types of books, but it's just not what I'm feeling like reading right now. So these are the ones that I have ruled out that I'll continue on with. I think The Scar, I'm probably just not gonna pick up for a while. I have another Marina and Sergey Dyachenko book that I need to read first, and this is just not what I was hoping for. I will get to this eventually, just not anytime soon. And these two, I do think I will read soon, just not right now. Probably not this week. We'll see though, especially The Spear Cuts Through Water. I really did like this, so if I do get the audiobook soon, I might pick this up this week, but I just think I'm just not in the mood for this right now. On the other hand, all 4 of these worked really well for me, and I can honestly pick up any of them and I think it would fit my mood. I think these I remember very well, and I think I will pick these up later in the week potentially. I say later in the week, but like I'm not gonna have that much time this week, so probably not, because I have other books I'm reading as well. But I do think I want to add these to my spring TBR, which leaves us with these 2 to choose between. And I feel like this works for me because they're both like tiny, which I wanted something that I could read pretty fast and finish. And the one that I'm leaning towards is probably Piranesi. I think this is really good, and like, if I have time, I think I will still pick it up, but I don't think I'm leaning towards this one. And it's definitely something that's out of my comfort zone and something that is just so different from anything else that I read that I think this definitely fits my mood. But Piranesi is just weird in an interesting way. And if I hadn't picked Piranesi as one of these books, I would definitely be continuing on with Persepolis. But I think I'm gonna go with Piranesi because it's just weird. Like, it starts off, like, it's a completely, I don't know, like nothing I would expect, which is exactly the mood that I'm in. So I'm just excited to see where this goes. It reminds me a little bit of House of Leaves by Mark Z. Zaniolinsky. Okay, this is officially like nothing else I've ever read before, which is about a house that's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And Piranesi has like a house that is like weird. Like it has 3 levels, but like the bottom level is like an ocean and the top level is a sky. It feels along the similar vein as this. This is obviously a horror novel though, and this is more fantasy. I actually never did finish House of Leaves. I think I have a bookmark in here. Yeah, I still have a bookmark in here. So if I end up still being in this type of mood when I'm done with Piranesi, who knows? Maybe House of Leaves is something I would consider picking up again. Alexa, what's the date? Alexa, what's the date?
Today is Sunday, March 2nd.
Okay, thanks. So it's Sunday, March 2nd, and I did make progress on Piranesi, but not as much as I was planning to. I wanted to go to bed early last night because I was not feeling well yesterday, so I was like, if I get a full night's sleep, I'll feel better today. That didn't happen. I woke up with the worst migraine this morning, but I'm feeling a little bit better right now, so I'm gonna try and get some stuff done while I'm feeling better, or at least while the ibuprofen lasts. And Piranesi, I was enjoying this so much. I'm on page like 30. The thing I like about this the most is the main character's, I guess, disposition. He reminds me of Anne of Green Gables because he has this just like whimsical imagination. Like there is a scene in which like a bird flies towards him, and instead of saying, oh, let me step out of the way so the bird doesn't hit me, he says something along the lines of, I thought I was gonna merge with the bird and become an angel. Which just like, what is going on? I'm loving that so much. This book is quite otherworldly in the best way possible. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I really like the writing in this also. The writing, it's very descriptive, has really good imagery, so I'm really enjoying this quite a bit. I did end up finishing my audiobook yesterday, which is Pyramids by Terry Pratchett. This book has to be my favorite of the Discworld books so far. I loved it so much. I think part of it is the world building because it had kind of like an Egyptian feel to it because the main character is an assassin who's going to this assassin school, but he's the son of the pharaoh. So when the pharaoh dies, he has to come back and become the pharaoh. So I felt that was quite interesting. I also really liked, not banter, but like the back and forth between him and his advisor Dios, because his advisor just completely overrides most of his decisions that he makes, but in like the funniest way possible. This book was just so much fun. I loved it so much. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I considered giving it 5 stars. I really did. But I think the problem with me and Terry Pratchett's books and the Discworld books in general is like, I feel like I am loving them so much in the moment, but they don't necessarily stick with me. Like the plot and everything of the story is not like the point of the book. The point of the book is kind of like the humor and like the political ideas and themes. But because like the plot and the characters are kind of put on the back burner for those aspects of the novel, I feel like are very prominent while you're reading it. But when you look back on a book, you might think about the themes a little bit, but chances are you're probably going to be thinking about the characters and what happened in the book. And those are just not as important, I feel like. So I like this book. I liked it so much. And I'm really excited to read more from Discworld, but I feel like it's a series that it's really fun to read, but I don't know if it'll stick with me as much as like some of the other series that I've read. So I had to pick up a new audiobook, and I think it's just the mood that I'm in, or maybe it was because I was reading Piranesi. I didn't feel like reading anything that was on my TBR. I just wanted something new, different, and something that could have the potential to surprise me. So I went through all of the books that I had on loan from my library, because my library lets you check out 30 books, which is amazing, by the way. So I just like having a huge backlog of audiobooks that I could choose from at any point. And one of the audiobooks was We Used to Live Here. I don't remember the author, but this is a thriller in which there's a family that comes to this house and wants to do a tour because they used to live there. Then like things start happening. It's like a mystery thriller, obviously. I feel like I'm just like in the mood for weird houses. I decided to pick this up. So far I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I think it's quite interesting, the juxtaposition, because the family that comes over seems to be quite religious, especially the mother, but it's a lesbian couple that now lives in the house, so there's a little tension there. And then there's something going on with the dad. There's something weird about his relationship to the house or something like that, and I'm just excited to see where this goes. It's quite creepy so far. I feel like this is a book that I saw somewhere on BookTube, but I haven't been able to pin down where I saw it, so we'll see. Maybe I'll end up loving this. I haven't picked up a mystery thriller in a while, so I'm excited to see where this goes. Okay, I've made progress on Piranesi. I read about like 40 more pages, so I'm on page 70 now, and I'm pretty sure this character is an unreliable narrator, but also the other, who's the only other human alive in this novel, is also an unreliable narrator. I'm pretty sure he's just using our main character, so what he's saying, like, I can't believe it. I know there are some truths in there. Like, our character appears to be very earnest, but I feel like I don't know if he's like completely in his right mind. But then the other character, I also feel like there are some truths to what he's saying, but I know he has other motivations that he might be lying to our main character. So I don't know. This is one of those books where like you don't really know what to believe and what not to believe, and you have to try and figure out what is true. And at the same time, it all seems unrealistic. So it is definitely a mind-bendy type of book, and I'm enjoying this so much. I don't know how much more I can say about it without getting into spoiler territory. I feel like this is one of those books that you want to go into a little bit more blind, so I'm not going to try to say too much more about this book, but I am enjoying it quite a bit so far. So it is Monday, March 3rd, and last night I ended up finishing We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I don't know, for some reason I was just really drawn to the story and I enjoyed it so much. It definitely fulfilled like the mood that I was in, where I really wanted to read something different. And like this book is like nothing that I've read before. I believe it's a debut novel, but it's also like, it's a horror, but it has supernatural elements, but it's also kind of up in the air as to what actually happened. I mean, it's not completely, like, I feel like I know kind of what happened, but like, if you really didn't want to believe that, it could be up in the air, but it also has interesting kind of concept. I don't want to say what the concept is because I feel like that's spoilers, but I enjoyed this so much. I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. I definitely recommend the audiobook because it's written kind of like, almost like a documentary where there's like parts of it that feel like you're watching a film. So I think the audiobook worked really well for this. Because I finished that, this morning I did have to start a new audiobook, so I wanted to kind of stay along the lines of something that I wouldn't normally pick up and I didn't really know anything about. So I decided to pick up Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I don't know anything about this book, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it and it seems to be a very well-loved book. So far, I'm enjoying it. It definitely has this kind of like weird, like almost uncanny valley kind of feel where like the world is similar to ours, but different enough that I know it's not our world, if that makes sense, which I really like. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm not super far into it at all. There is definitely an almost dystopian vibe to it, but like I said, I haven't gotten very far into this one. So it's Tuesday, March 4th, and I did finish Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I enjoyed this so much. I absolutely loved this. This book is like a masterclass in unreliable narration. I loved trying to piece together what was true and what was not true and trying to figure out what the mystery was. I will say I did guess it, but that didn't deter from the fact that I ended up loving this book so much. I really loved the writing style in particular. I wouldn't say it's necessarily atmospheric. I just love the way she wrote the characters. I feel like there are thematic elements to this book as well. I don't even want to give away what it explores because I feel like that would potentially be spoilers for this because it is so short. I ended up loving this so much. I will say if you're a plot-driven reader, this is probably not the book for you because there is just a lot of description. There's a lot of time we spend in the main character's head, but I personally really love that. I love understanding how people think and seeing characters try to piece together the worlds around them. So because of that, I ended up loving this so much. Also, it does have a fantasy element that I particularly really love. I won't spoil it in this video, but if you want to know, just let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to spoil it in the comments. But I ended up loving this so much and I ended up giving it 5 stars. So happy that I finally picked this up. This morning, I also did make a bit of progress on Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I can kind of see where this book is going. Kind of like how I guessed what was going to happen in Piranesi. I'm kind of guessing like what like the kind of like twist or like sci-fi element to Never Let Me Go is, but like I'm okay with it. I think it's quite interesting. I will say this is a little bit more literary than I normally read, which I don't mind. I do like reading literary fiction occasionally, but I will also say it goes into some topics a little bit more than I would personally like. There's a couple of things there that I'm not loving this book as much as I have the last 2 books I read, and I also kind of feel myself kind of pulling away from this mood that I'm in. I think the last 2 books, We Used to Live Here and Piranesi, really fulfilled this mood for me, and I'm kind of wanting to move on to something else. This evening, as like I'm gonna go to bed soon, I kind of started feeling myself getting into more of like a cozy fantasy mood, which doesn't usually happen, and shopping my shelves worked the last time I got into one of these weird moods, so I decided to try that again. But the only book I came up with that might maybe fit my mood is The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brienne Randall. I don't know what this book is about other than it looks like a cozy fantasy book and I believe there's a romance involved here, and I feel like this might fit my mood. Also, my cozy fantasy moods are usually pretty fleeting, and this is a pretty short book, so I could probably finish it over the course of like a couple of days or so. So I feel like I'm gonna try this. I might not continue on with it, but I'm at least gonna try it like how I tried Piranesi and see if it's something that's fitting my mood, and I'll let you know what I think. Okay, this is not it. I was barely 2 pages in and I was already getting annoyed at some of the writing and like the world building. I did not like it, so we'll see. Maybe I'll pick this up at some other time, but right now this is just not it for me. So instead I picked up Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner. This is the sequel to Godkiller. I should have known that for me, cozy fantasy fantasy means high fantasy, not actual cozy fantasy. I just love getting immersed into a high fantasy world, and this is one that I actually really like. I was very surprised by the first book in the series, and the first chapter of this one was quite great. I'm really excited to see where this is going, and the third book in this series comes out very soon, so I needed to pick this up anyway. So it's Wednesday, March 5th, and I was on the road for a long time today, so I had a lot of time for audiobook, and I did end up finishing Never Let Me Go. And I have to say, I feel like this is a really high concept book in which all of the stakes are just kind of like swept under the rug. I love the concept of this book. I found it incredibly interesting. I think this would have been a lot more interesting if we knew up front what the concept was. I did enjoy like guessing it, but I feel like that part dragged on too long because I figured it out pretty early on, and then I was just kind of bored by the middle because it was trying to be mysterious, but I knew what it was. So like it was just kind of boring, and like the middle just dragged a little bit too much. And then I kind of don't think there was a very good plot in this book. There was almost no plot in this book, which I guess like I understand how like literary fiction readers might like that, but as someone who reads a lot of high fantasy, I feel like I'm always that voice in the room that goes like, there's too much plot, what about the characters? And there were characterizations in this book. There are 3 characters in particular that this book seems to follow. 2 of the characters, which are the side characters, I found to be incredibly interesting and unique and just like well written, but the main character I thought was very bland. She felt very much like a blank slate, and I wasn't sure if it was because of the concept of the book, which I don't want to spoil, or not, but I don't think it was because the other characters were not like her. If you've read this book, you know what I'm talking about. Because of that, I didn't like the main character a lot, and I just felt like seeing things from her perspective made the rest of the world kind of boring because she was very boring. Or maybe it was meant to be that way, but I struggled with this a lot despite it being such an interesting concept. Because of that, I'm gonna give it a 3.5 star rating, but I think I will try other books by this author because I do want to see if there's anything else that I could potentially like by him. After I finished that, I needed to start a new book, and I just wanted something that I would like, and I was having trouble with cozy from the previous days. I decided to pick up a romantic contemporary from an author that I've read before that I know that I like. So I picked up The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez is the author that wrote the Part of Your World series, which I read last year and ended up really liking. So I decided to pick up The Friend Zone. This is a previous novel that she wrote. I think back in like 2019 is when she published it. So it was a little bit older than her newer novels. And I'm enjoying this quite a bit so far. It does say it's enemies to lovers, and I don't agree. Like, they're rivals kind of at the very beginning. Like their meet cute is not like a cute one. It's kind of like one that would put you at odds with each other, but that doesn't last very long. So I'm enjoying this, and I'm excited to see how it goes. So it's Thursday, March 6th, and I did end up finishing The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. This was so much fun. This is just what I needed. It was like just a good palate cleanser after like the more emotional books that I have been reading, because the last 3 were like dark and kind of emotional, and this one was just a lot of fun. It is heartbreaking, I will give you that. I wasn't expecting it to go there because it was like light and fluffy for the majority of this book. So just trigger warnings, if you don't want to get emotional, this one will still get you emotional, but like in a good way. I did enjoy this quite a bit. It's about 2 characters who get into a car accident, and they kind of like yell at each other about it, and they don't like each other because of that. But then when they reach where they're going, they realize that their best friends are getting married, and they are the maid of honor and the best man. They already don't get along, but they end up getting to know each other because she needs a carpenter for her online business, and her carpenter recently quit, and he just happens to be a carpenter that can help her out, and it's pretty good money. So they get into this little business relationship and become friends, and she's in a relationship at the time. They know they can't be more than friends, so that's why it's called the friend zone, because they're like stuck in the friend zone. But like I feel like it's not really. Like I feel like it's obviously they're not, but there's more to it than that. There are like themes having to do with like fertility and difficult like periods and things like that this book goes into, which I did appreciate the author bringing those sorts of topics up. I will say I don't think I enjoyed this like more than the Part of Your World series, but I still enjoyed this so much, so I'm giving it 4.25 stars. I came really close to giving it 4.5 stars, but I think 4.25 is like the right place to put this, and I will definitely be continuing on with this series. Maybe not right away, but eventually. I think this is a series that like when I'm in the mood for a palate cleanser, I'll just pick up the next book. So it's Saturday, March 8th. I did make progress on Sunbringer by Hannah Kaner. I am enjoying this. I haven't made that much progress. I'm like right there. It does take me longer to read physical books though, so that's kind of expected. I will be continuing to read this next week. I am enjoying this and I am excited for the next book in this series. So hopefully I can finish this pretty quickly so that when that book comes out, I'll be able to pick it up. I don't want to say too much about this because it is the second book in a series, but I did really like the way this started and I'm excited to see where it ends up going. Still like Scatty. He's the god of white lies. He's amazing. He's so cute. But yeah, I'm enjoying this quite a bit so far. As for my audiobook, on I think it was Thursday, when I finished the last audiobook, I got the audiobook for The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. So I decided to pick that up and I have been listening to it. I'm about 4 hours into the audiobook and I have no idea what is going on in this book. Like literally no idea. If you read this book, let me know in the comments because I had to like read a review of this book, a spoiler-free one, to kind of understand the structure of this book because it is structured in the weirdest way possible. Because you are in the audience of a play, watching this play fold through, but then you also get point of views from the characters in the play. Like you are sucked into their point of view, but like at first I had the hardest time because no one seems to have names because there's the you character, then there's also the I character. So there's a second person point of view, a first person point of view, but there are other characters that do have names. It was just so hard to track on the audiobook side. So I feel like I probably will have to read the physical book, but I do have to return that book to the library. So I'll either have to buy the book or maybe I'll borrow the ebook because at the moment I kind of think I'm just gonna put this down. Part of the reason why I'm not continuing on with the audiobook too is I feel like there are audiobooks that are good and there are audiobooks that are just great, like out of this world amazing. And this audiobook is just good. Like there's nothing wrong with it, but like with how beautiful the writing is, I feel like they should have found a narrator that could lend well to that writing, like take the audiobook over the top. And I feel like that just didn't happen with this one. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with the audiobook, but there's nothing necessarily amazing about it either. So like I'm not enjoying that aspect of it. I'm also starting to get like a headache throughout the last end of this week. So like I just want more soothing audiobooks. The narrator in this one just feels a little bit grating to me, which is annoying me. And the fact that I'm not really like following along with the plot that well with this audiobook too, it's just not working for me as much as I would like it to. So I do think I will eventually pick up this book and read it because I do want to see why so many people love it. But for now, I'm gonna put it on pause because I want to love this so much. I want to, but the way I'm reading it is just not working for the vibes of this book. That is all I have for you. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments because I would love to hear from you. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. I'm posting at least one video per week, so please consider subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.